Welcome to the Resilient Butterfly Podcast. My goal is to share inspiring stories of healing and recovery through many diverse approaches and models. Our guests bring incredible lived experiences, insights, and/or professional expertise, each with their own unique path. While we highlight and celebrate these stories, our intention is to inform, inspire, and demonstrate resilience and creativity. This podcast does not endorse any one approach. We believe there is more than one way to heal, and we're here to showcase the resilience and possibilities that exist. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Resilient Butterfly. I'm Pam Feinberg-Rivkin, and today I have as my guest Natalie Ledwell, who is one of the founders of Mind Movies, which is really a higher level of The Secret. And I'll let Natalie talk about how that came about. But she also has really developed several opportunities for herself and others over the years. And I'm going to say I fell in love with you, Natalie, when we first met. And people will fall in love with you when they hear you and your Australian voice. And there's just so much depth there, and you're one of the transformational leaders in the country and know some of the same people that I have taken transformation leadership program from. So I am just so blessed to have you in my life. Thank you for coming on.
Well, it is an absolute pleasure to be here, Pam. And you're right. And when we met, we just connected, very like-minded, and also very focused on helping people the best way that we can. So
absolutely,
I'm glad that you're a sister on the journey.
And we all have to stick together because it is a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So let's start with your childhood and where you grew up and where this all blossomed from, because you're no longer in Australia, but that's where you grew up. So let's start there.
Yeah, well, I grew up in a country town called Orange, which is in New South Wales in Australia, and I'm one of 8 kids. So I'm from a very big family, and big country family. And that was fun at times and challenging at others. It was very interesting. My biological mother actually left when I was 3, which I think was a good thing in the end. And so my dad remarried and married a woman who had 6 kids from her previous marriage. So there was my sister and I that were dad's children, and then we had 6 step siblings, although I think I was like 4 when all this kind of happened. So 4 or 5. So they're really just our siblings. So it was interesting because, Mum and I had, and, my stepmom I call Mum because she's the only mum I know, but we had a very contentious relationship. And I just think it's because she just had no idea what to do with me. Was always very confident and kind of ambitious, and always in the school plays and the debating teams, the athletics, and
nothing stopped you.
Kind of things. Nothing stopped me. And I remember even from a young age, my mum would try and drill into me, there's nothing special about you. Why do you always have to be in the limelight? Why do you always need to be the center of attention? And it was interesting because, I'm like, I don't see anything wrong with that. Mm-hmm. And that is my personality, as you
Well, with 8 children, you had to come out to have a bigger personality. Otherwise, you'd be lost.
Yeah, I think it was that Mum was trying her best to keep 8 of us out of trouble. 8 kids is a lot. Dad was working 3 jobs just to support us all. And so Mum was really the person at home who was, handing out the discipline. And she did hand out a lot of discipline. Some of it was warranted and some of it was not. But we always had this very contentious, relationship, unfortunately. And so I left home when I was 17. And then I left my hometown when I was 18 and moved to Sydney because the town was not big enough for the 2 of us.
Wow.
And I'm not sure what all of that was from her. I don't know whether it was menopause, which I'm thinking it could have been that, or whether she was just like this. But she would she would get very emotionally unregulated, and then you were hoping that you weren't the one close enough for her to take it out on, kind of thing. But even when I was like 17. I'm not living at home anymore. I'm working at the local gym, and one of my siblings or someone said to her, "Oh, we saw Natalie at the gym, and she just thinks she's something special." So I remember my mum calling me up and going, "Come around to my place." I went around there, and she goes, "I want you to quit your job."
Really? Wow.
Yeah, she goes, "Because you're just, we've got tickets on yourself. You think too highly of yourself." And I'm like,
wow.
And I'm like, okay, first of all, no. And it's the first time I stood up to her in my life. And this is when I'm like, I got to get out of here.
Well, I can see the town would be too small if she's telling you to quit your job because you think too much of yourself. You're literally like making something of yourself, which should be applauded, right?
Right. Well, I moved to Sydney, and I started teaching aerobics when I moved to Sydney, and then I was managing fitness clubs when I was 21 years old. I was getting poached by different gyms and different fitness centers because I was really good at what I was doing, but I was ambitious. But the motivation of my ambition came from sticking it to my mother.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I want to show you how I can thrive and how, I can really expand and step into my own without you. And I think that it fueled me in the beginning. And then when I was maybe 24, I was listening to some cassettes by Brian Tracy, some personal development things. And I realized that I was in this competition with my mother and my siblings that was of my own creation. And I'm like, maybe this isn't healthy. Maybe this isn't the right thing to do. And so I actually remember driving back to Orange one weekend and sitting both mum and dad down individually and just having a conversation with them and going, look, I know things have been tough and maybe we haven't got on that well, but I just want you to know that I do love you and I do appreciate everything that you've done. Because I had this realization as an adult, I'm really thinking, 8 kids. I mean, I didn't even have one kid. I wasn't even on board with that. Because I was just imagining how difficult it would have been for her and put myself in her shoes for a moment, and Dad's shoes as well. Like
how did she respond to that?
Well, she said thank you, but it was still it was ingrained behavior for her.
Sure.
Yeah, and I even remember when my husband and I separated. This is 2013, and so the year after that, I was, on a TV show. It was like the conscious version of The View, with my girlfriends, and had this new website done, and had this glowing testimonial from Bob Proctor, who's like a giant, in our field. Of what he thought of me and my work and everything. And I remember showing everything to mum and dad, and I'm like, look what I did this year and blah, blah, blah. And she didn't say anything. Like there was no comments, there was no nothing. And then she's like, well, where's Glenn? Which is, my husband.
She already knew you were separated, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, it's got nothing to do with Glenn. This is my stuff. And I go, actually, I do have a video of he and I talking about our story, about how we built the company. And so I showed her that video, and she's like, I really like what Glenn's wearing in that video. And I'm thinking, and I just like steam coming out of my ears. I'm like, are you kidding me? I just shut the computer and just stormed off. I had to calm down. And then I came back down into the living room and I'm fuming. And mum's like, you've got to realize, Natty, we don't understand what you do. And I go, Mum, I was on a TV show. You sit in front of the TV all day. Don't tell me that.
Yeah. Well, it was probably beyond the scope of what she could like imagine one of her children doing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I don't know if she had any favorites or not, or she was just jealous herself of the fact that... It
could have been the jealousy thing for sure. I do think it was a little bit of that. And I think it was disbelief. Like, what do you mean you're on a TV show in America? Like, I was like,
she's from this little town in Australia called Orange in the country, right? How did your dad react to it all?
Dad was silent, you know.
He couldn't do anything more.
No, he any of his even like growing up, he couldn't show any affection to Heidi or myself. You know, he'd cop an earful from Mum, and you know, his whole life he just and again, I think because you get into a routine of this is the parameters of the relationship, then that just carries on until it's not needed anymore. You know, my mum is now in a home. She has dementia, and she's getting well looked after. And Dad looked after her as long as he possibly could, but he suffered a lot of guilt when she went into the home and going, I could have done more. I could have done. I'm like, Dad, I'm like, oh my goodness, you did everything that you possibly could, way longer than you probably should have. I said, I don't think you have anything to feel guilty for. And I go, listen, she's gone now. You can do what you want. But he was so confined in that relationship that he, it was like, well, I don't know what to do now.
Years and years of something, a plan that he was involved in his life. And who knows what his own trauma was when your biological mom left, right? Because then he was left with 2 children by himself.
Small children. And like I was 3.
He didn't want to do that again, have that again, right?
Absolutely.
So you and Glenn, who is now your business partner but no longer your husband, went through several businesses in Australia before you landed with the Mind Movies. So I'd like to, go through a little history there in regard to your entrepreneurship and your transformation for yourself.
Well, I was very lucky. Like the first job of managing a fitness club at 21, honestly, I talked my way into that job and I had no idea what I was doing. All I thought is like, I could do a better job than you, which is, this woman who owned the gym, she inherited it in the divorce and she didn't really want it. And I'm just like, you get out of the way, let me get in here and, make something of this. And so I had a good maybe 8 years of managing fitness clubs and working for different bosses who really taught me a lot. So I really got to cut my entrepreneurial teeth on other people's business, which was fantastic. And then I met Glenn, who then became my husband, and our first business together was a nightclub.
Wow.
Which was a bit of a contrast.
Sure.
From this healthy get up at 6 a.m. in the morning.
What you do now.
Exactly. To basically staying up until 6 a.m. in the morning because the nightclub was all night. We opened until 6 a.m. in the morning. But the cool thing about that is that because they're both service industries, like they're both, as you come in, it's not necessarily a product, but it's an experience that people are having. So everything I learned in the fitness industry, I was able to apply to this nightclub. And so it was super successful. We had it for 5 years and then we were done. And then we went through what I call my beige years, which is between 2001 and 2007. Glenn and I were involved in a ton of different businesses because we could. We had property development, we had a health food business, we had coffee franchises, we had the first bathroom advertising company in Australia. We got this brilliant idea to go around to all the pubs and clubs and lease the space on the back of their toilet doors. And then we'd put frames up there and put advertising, sell the advertising space.
Oh, wow.
So we would come up with all these crazy ideas and have all these different businesses, but none of them were fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And when I worked in fitness, like I was speaking on stage at the age of 23, telling business owners how to systemize their business and how to manage their staff. Like, I felt like I had something where I was a career where I was making a difference and I felt important, and so through the beige years, we were just kind of going through the motions. Well, I felt I was going through the motions. And then I remember having a moment where I was looking at all my bills and I'm looking at my bank account. And at the time we had 4 different businesses were running at the same time. And I'm like, wait a minute, something's
Were
not
you
computing
sleeping
here.
at all there at that point?
Yeah. Well, I'd be doing some and Glenn would be doing some and some of the, so it was interesting times. But we were working our butts off and really not getting financially rewarded for it. Mm-hmm. And then a friend suggested I go online and order a DVD called The Secret, which was all about law of attraction. And even the first day that Glenn and I watched that movie, we were in our living room in Sydney. I remember it very clearly. And just listening to that movie and looking at each other going, I'm like, how did I miss this? Like, how did I miss this piece about, visualizing with emotion and not needing to know the whole plan and just taking that first step and being, a vibrational match to what you want. I'm like, I had been a student of personal development since I was 21. So I'm like I really had missed this kind of part of it. And so, we're starting to write affirmations and, doing vision boards. And then a friend came to us who we had met through one of these businesses we were working in. It was like a network marketing business. And he showed us this little video that he had created, and it was PowerPoint slides that had affirmations on them. And then in between the PowerPoint slides were photos, and then there was a song on top. So it was like this little musical thing, but it was, a vision of what he wanted for his future. And I still get goosebumps when I think about this. But and believe me, he was a young, single 30-something-year-old guy. There was like girls in bikinis and hot cars and things that,
but he was
that were not of interest to me. But I remember thinking, dude, this is powerful. You need to show me how to make one of these. And then he came up with the idea that we, set up a website and put a video on YouTube and, teach people around the world how to create these videos. And we put one video up on YouTube. And I remember, we had to learn how to edit a video, and our investment in this company was $800 for someone to build the website, and $1,200 for a video camera.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's how we got started. And so we put up this video. The first day, nothing happened, but the second day that video was up on YouTube, amongst all the millions of videos that were up there, we made 3 sales, like 3 people purchased.
Right.
I'm like, whoa, okay, first of all, how did that happen? How are they finding the video? Like what's
right.
And then, within months we had people emailing us going, this has changed my life. And really, in essence, what we were doing was helping them to figure out what they wanted. Mm-hmm. Most of us know we want to be happy. Mm-hmm. Most of us know we want to be wealthy. But by making a mind movie, you're really describing what wealth means to you.
Right. What in that do you want? Yeah.
It's not the money that excites you. Mm-hmm. It's what the money buys you that excites you. Mm-hmm. So being able to articulate that in this medium was really helping people to create it in their lives, because they were not only being able to see themselves in that car on that vacation or whatever, but they were reminding themselves all the time because they would watch their movie consistently.
So I want to say this at this point because you're describing it, but a lot of people who are listening know me and probably were a little shocked when I started the podcast, which was about February, March of this year. But last summer, I had made a movie to visualize, and that was one of the things that I was visualizing, is that this podcast would be born and that I would be doing this with people and making a difference in showing up for others and bringing people on to see that their lives could be better. There are ways, and many, many ways to do this. And one of them is in a way to visualize, to get out of your way and not be a victim any longer, but visualize what it is that you really want and continue to put that in your mind. So,
well, we're very good at being able to inadvertently visualize all the stuff we don't want. Mm-hmm. We can look at our lives, look at the things that aren't working well, and we get into these little loops and these spirals, And so because what we focus on expands, the more that we're focused on what we don't want, the more that we're creating it. And a mind movie gives you the opportunity to go, well, if that's what I don't want, what is it that I do want? You know, and then you've got, you know, especially like the affirmations and the images are really important because they do help to give your brain somewhere to start. But the music is the secret sauce. The song that you use with your mind movie makes a world of difference.
It's powerful.
Because it helps you to create the emotion that you need to be feeling when you're having these visualizations. Like, for example, when I manifested my guy, when I met my Bert back in 2020, I had created a mind movie, and of course I used a love song because that's the emotion that I want to attach to these visualizations.
Sure.
You know, I use inspiring songs when I'm working on big projects and different things. So, and especially if it's a song that's meaningful to you.
Sure.
What, you know,
can you talk about the brainwave entrainment too? And how that actually just creates a whole different level.
Yeah. So we have a Mind Movies Method Coaching Academy. And the coaches that get trained through the academy have the ability to use the Mind Movies modality in their coaching sessions. And so the Mind Movies modality is a combination of a mind movie, which the client has created of what it is that they want to achieve and what they want. Then there's also a list of affirmations that you create with your client in that session about, you know, what they want, you know, adopting a new habit, releasing an old habit, you know, releasing limiting beliefs, whatever that is. But when they are watching that mind movie and then listening to these affirmations, what they're also listening to is an audio called brainwave entrainment. So this brainwave entrainment is at, it sounds kind of like a buffering, like a helicopter or something. But what it's designed to do is to change your brainwave state so that your brainwaves are now in coherence, or they're matching the same frequency as the audio that you're listening to. Now that brainwave state is getting you into suggestible mind or getting you into trance. Now,
similar to hypnosis.
Exactly like hypnosis, except with hypnosis, it takes you maybe sometimes 20 minutes to talk someone into trance. Brainwave entrainment gets you there in a couple of minutes. And so while you're in trance, you're watching your mind movie and everything's getting, you know, going into your mind, and then you're listening to these affirmations that you've come up with. And so it helps to, number one, reprogram your mind or your subconscious mind. It helps to create new neural pathways. So, you know, in our brains, we have all these thoughts that travel along these neural pathways. Now, sometimes when we've had thoughts for many years, they are traveling along very strong neural pathways. And sometimes these thoughts are not for our highest and best good. Sure.
We think a lot of things during the daytime and evening, or even in our sleep, right?
Yes. So these thoughts, you know, I call them limiting beliefs, so they're called old programs, but they're attached to, or they were formed by experiences that we had when we were kids. That really are the beliefs that we have about our self-worth, our self-image, about money, about love, about our worthiness for love, all of these different things. So we have these beliefs that were very... that were programmed in there when we didn't have any kind of discernment. You know, we experienced a situation, and then our little 4-year-old or 5-year-old brain just went, okay, and just stored it in there. Now, the interesting thing about, you know, between up to about the ages of 6, our brainwave state is very similar to what we try to achieve when we're listening to the brainwave entrainment.
It's sort of like a sponge that it absorbs new information, right?
Absolutely. So our brains are naturally in that state. We're up to about the age of 6, and then we start to go into, you know, regular delta, beta brainwave state. But, you know, so we have all these thoughts about, you know, how I'm never going to be successful, how I'm never going to lose weight, how, you know, I'm not lovable, how, you know, I'm not enough. And so by using the brainwave entrainment with the affirmations and the mind movies, what we can do is create new neural pathways that have new thoughts that are aligned with this very vivid picture that you're able to visualize in your mind, while you're watching your mind movie and doing this process, so that when you think about creating wealth or think about getting healthier or any of those kind of things, rather than that old program being the first thing to pop through, you're creating this new neural pathway. So these thoughts that are in alignment with that, start to come through from the subconscious to the conscious mind. So it really, and those thoughts, once they're in the conscious mind, they start to positively influence your actions. So what that means is that, let's just say that you have a health goal and you find it really difficult to get out of bed and exercise first thing in the morning. But if you're watching this mind movie and you can see yourself feeling fit and for me, it's always, I always visualize myself jogging or running. That's what I used to do when I was younger. I've actually just started running again.
I saw that. That's fabulous.
So excited. But you visualize that. So then you'll find that when you wake up, it's easier for you to get out of bed. Like, it's like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to exercise today. It's because these new thoughts are influencing your actions. So what seemed to be difficult or challenging before is now a whole lot easier to do, because you don't really have to think about it. Well, yes, of course I'm going to do this. Of course I'm going to get up and exercise, because you have this clear vision in your mind of the result that you want to achieve. So, yeah.
And I can say that in my, in my movie, my mind movies, I've created a few of them over the time that I started, but the last one that I've been watching the most is almost everyone, with the exception of one, which is still on the way because I'm working towards it. It has been accomplished. So I'm ready to create another movie on top, bringing other things into it. But relationships, I went on a yoga retreat to the Amalfi Coast just a few weeks ago, being able to really have the opportunity to do the things that I want to do and have relationships with my family and others around me that I really want to continue to build on, which is important to me. And bringing in that values-based life that Robert McPhee talks about is really important for us to develop that mind movie.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a number of really good uses for a mind movie. Number one, if you want to achieve a different life, if you go look, there are certain goals and things I want to achieve, then you can make a mind movie around that. The other really effective way, and we've worked with a addiction recovery center out in Arizona. I can't think of the name of it now. I think Deborah Strangle is the woman out there, or Stengel, I should say. So when you're, and I'm actually in the process of this now because I'm Australian. I like to have a glass of wine and so forth. But I'm decided I'm going to not drink for a month. We'll start with a month and then see how we go from there. But it also means that I've got to overcome a habit because, and get to 5 o'clock and go, I've got to overcome the physicality of going, I like the feeling or the taste or in the habit. And it's also part of my identity. So, everyone knows that if they're hanging out with Nat, that's going to be a fun time. We're going to have some drinks. It's going to be amazing. So I understand that for me to shift into not drinking, part of that is like, okay, well, I know that what is, but what is it that I'm, shifting into? So when I make a mind movie around this, I'm looking at, well, who am I now? What is my new identity? Now, I can still be fun Nat. I don't have to have alcohol involved to do that. Also, like my actions and activities. So if I'm not going to be sitting down and having drinks as soon as I finish work, what am I doing instead?
Right.
And I already see myself like getting up, going for a walk, talking to my girlfriends, like,
Well,
doing
you've
different
taken
activities.
up running too, so you can go out and take a run.
Yeah, I could. Well, that's my morning thing. But even getting to the gym and starting to do some weight training. So there's a like I'm already visualizing who I am, the things that I'm doing, how I see myself, and my why. And this is a big part of the mind movie is that when you can remember what you're like, why you're doing this. And for me, like my health is pretty good, life is pretty great, but I've got some really big goals around mind movies and around the new Relieph app. And I'm like, for me to be able to achieve these things, I need to get to the next level. And I think to do that, I need to have a clear mind and I need to have the energy to be able to do that. And then, so when I think about it, I'm like, especially with the Relieph app, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be helping millions of people be able to feel better about themselves, to regulate their emotions and do all of that. So when I focus on that, I mean, that's all the reason I need.
Right. So talk about that Relieph app, because I think many out there would love to hear about it.
Yeah, so it's Relieph with a PH. So it's Relieph is how you spell it. And the purpose of the app is to help you to identify, to understand, and to shift your emotions, if you want to do that. So to do that, we are using AI-based voice analysis technology. So, we encourage you to do a little daily check-in, and you can do that just by yourself, or we have these little 21-day challenges, which are always really fun. But you basically count into your phone for 15 seconds, and then we can measure the emotional energy you're holding in that moment through the frequency of your voice. So then we give you, we're measuring 6 high frequency emotions and 6 low frequency emotions. And so we give you just, a couple of the main ones that are popping up for you today, explaining, what that emotion's all about, and then giving you some really small, easy strategies and tools to be able to shift that emotion or shift that energy if you want to do that. Things like breath work and visualizations and mind movies and meditations and yoga and we're about to add some qigong and different things. But it's about helping you to understand what it is that you're feeling, because sometimes we'll go, look, I'm super anxious. But anxious isn't an emotion. Anxious is what you're feeling in your body, but there are emotions that are underneath that.
Right.
So if we can understand what the emotion is, then we can also understand, where it's coming from, and different things that we can do to shift it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous. So I am so happy that you came on. I'm ecstatic that you were able to come on and talk about this. Tell the audience how they can access Mind Movies or the Relieph app.
Yeah. So if you go to relieph.com, so Relieph.com, you can see a whole lot more information about the app, or you can actually just find it in the app stores, Google Play or the Apple App Store. And then if you go to mindmovies.com, not only can you download some free Mind Movies, so you get an idea of what that is, and that helps you to get clear about what it is that you want when it comes to wealth and health and relationships. But we have a whole ton of, different information there. You can find out all about Mind Movies, and that's kind of our little one-stop shop.
And then you have the Mind Movies Methods Coach program, which I am still going through and will be completed in just a few more weeks, hopefully. And then there are others also that can take you through your limiting beliefs and work through the mind movie method through coaching. That will be really important too.
Yeah, well, that was last year. I had in one of my meditations, I kind of came through. It's like, because I'm like, well, what's the next level? What's the next step? And what came through is to teach others what you do. So that's where the Mind Movies Method Coaching Academy came from. So we're training people. Not only do you have your own transformation first as you go through, because you're using all the tools that you'll use with a client, but you're also learning how to be able to use the tools to help others and how to set up your business. And we're really good with the online thing, so we give you all the information for that. But what sets us apart from most people is that we've always used technology for transformation. So this is why, you could become a clinical hypnotherapist. I mean, I am a clinical hypnotherapist, but, using the brainwave entrainment with the mind movies fast tracks, that whole process. We kind of really... We've got, a few hundred people in there at the moment. And I love that we're, sending out like a wave or an army of people out into the world who can use these tools.
Everywhere, people are coming from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And
we've got a ton of Europeans, a ton of Aussies and New Zealanders as well as Americans. So, it's great. It's an amazing community because everyone is focused on the same thing. And I think when you're in a community of people who are all in a place where they want to make a difference, and they want to serve, it's a wonderful, community and place to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it, and I hope next year we may be able to come back and talk even more about what else is happening.
Yeah, well, I can give you definitely some statistics and things on, especially with the app. We just had about 2,500 people come in from the My Movies community, come into the app now, and we are working with a number of military schools. So some of the things that we are measuring and seeing right now are very, very hopeful. I feel very optimistic about us really helping to make an emotional change and helping people have, a lot more emotional well-being.
And to have it in schools for children to learn how to regulate their emotions is really huge. Well, thank you for being you and a member of the transformational tribe.
Thank you, darling. Such a pleasure chatting with you today. Good to see you.
All right, you too. Thank you for joining the conversation today. If you are seeking help for yourself or a loved one, please reach out to our Feinberg Consulting team at 248-538-5425. That's 248-538-5425, and check out our website at feinbergcare.com. I'm grateful for our guests and all who have joined us today. Make sure you follow us on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.